Carabelli's on a conference call, so he's going to be
right.
late.
Okay, commissioners, audience, if you please grab your seats. I'd like to call our public services meeting to order. First item is Pledge of Allegiance. Would Commissioner Romano, former veteran, please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we continue, I'd just like to ask a short moment of silence for the passing of Commissioner Leonetti's mother-in-law, Evelyn Rogo. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. First item on the agenda is we need a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Commissioner Hall, supported by Commissioner Sauger. Please vote to adopt the agenda. Item passes. Item number 4 is we need a motion for the minutes. Moved by Brown, supported by Romano. Please vote for the minutes. Still waiting for it. That item passes. Public participation. Anyone from the public wish to address the body? Anyone from the public? Seeing no one from the public, we'll go on to our items here. Department recommendations. We got items A through I, which all fall under the Department of Roads. Brian Santo. Okay, so Commissioner Brown is going to make the motion to move items A through I believe. Is that correct? Is there support for that? Support by Commissioner Hall. So we'll just have Brian come up here and talk about some of these items or all of them. Any questions, let me know. Raise your hand. Hello, Brian.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. If there's anyone in particular, I may go through one by one, or if anybody has any particular question on any individual one.
So I'll go ahead and start to ask you questions. The Innovate Mound, I'm seeing here H, items H. Looks like that's in engineering, 100,000. And the larger one, I, which is 13 million. Can you tell us a little bit about that, what that money is used for?
Yes, I can. The cost share agreement, as far as the $100,000, is the local participation with the city of Sterling Heights and Warren. That's for our internal costs for internal staffing to oversee that project at the roads department. So that's a cost share agreement with Warren and Sterling Heights to contribute for that participation. The other one is the cost share for the Phase 2 with HNTB. With that previous Phase 2 contract, 13 some odd million, that is cost share to have the split between the City of Warren and City of Sterling Heights for participation with that portion of the phase with HNTB.
Okay, so as far as Innovate Mound project is concerned, we're not at the brick and mortar stages, obviously, yet.
No, that's correct. We will bid it out latter part of 2020. And award it sometime in spring of 2021, with actual construction taking place most likely in the summer of 2021.
2021. Okay.
Yes.
Very, very good. Okay. I don't have anybody on the list. Any questions, comments? Commissioner Romano, you have your. Go ahead. You have your hand up. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Hi, Brian. Brian,
How you doing, Commissioner?
this HNTB, have we signed a contract with them yet? And let me ask you, and I'll tell you why I'm asking. I've talked to the lady that was here, that was, I think she was in charge, but she was here with her boss, and asked her if she would speak in front of Sterling Heights City Council, explaining exactly what was going on with Mound Road. She agreed to do that, but she says not until we've actually signed a written contract with roads. Have we signed a contract with them yet?
Yes, we have a third-party agreement that was signed off on and approved by the board here also. And then we have a state contract that's between Roads Department and MDOT, the state, that was signed off on also. So everything is set. We just had a meeting last week with HNTB and the City of Sterling Heights and the City of Warren in kind of a kickoff meeting for the locals. And there will be future meetings set up subsequent to that.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairman Smith.
Thank you. Brian, two things. One of them just sounds interesting, so I'd like to hear a little bit about the Wi-Fi detector, connected to the roadside equipment for the autonomous vehicles. Can you speak a little bit about that?
That's item B?
Yep, item B,
Okay.
item B, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Yes. That is a program that's CMAQ funds, congestion mitigation and air quality funds that we get through MDOT. We submit for those funds, and we're able to get funding, I believe, at a 80-20% rate, 80% federal funds, 20% local match. And that is for intersections that we have. We currently have a handful that we have implemented, what's called the RSU unit, which is a technology that communicates with the signal at that location, and then with vehicles that have an onboard unit, it's called. So a connected vehicle will be able to communicate between the signal and the vehicle. And then an approaching vehicle, if it's traveling, say, at 50, 60 miles an hour, and the light is going to turn red, and it'll indicate to the car that you're going to be approaching a red light, and it'll either vibrate the seat or put something up on the visual screen in the car.
And is this police and fire related also? Is this something that would connect with the police and fire light timing thing? I know that they do that in certain areas.
Yes, this would be in conjunction with, police and fire.
Okay.
And it's actually applied to even freight travel. So say with our Mound Road project, if we have this set up at the intersections, it would actually be able to communicate with an onboard unit on a semi. And if the light is just about to turn yellow, it might delay it a little bit so it can at least get through the intersection. Because obviously that once it stops, it's tougher for a semi to get going and delays traffic even farther. So it has other applications as well.
Great, thanks. And then one last thing. Your office emailed about potential bypass item and with the property purchase on Romeo Plank, and she said you'd be, if you wouldn't mind just kind of discussing it so that when we run the bypass through,
That's correct.
everybody understands it.
We have various excess parcels that are under the ownership of Department of Roads or the county, under the Department of Roads. And one particular location is the southwest corner of Partridge Creek Boulevard and Romeo Plank. So we have, I think it's acre and a half or 2 acres there. We had 3 parcels that were combined and got approval to do that. And we basically set it up for purchase. And there were 2 local bidders that were interested, property owner that sat adjacent to the parcel, and then the developers that developed Partridge Creek. And there was dialogue back and forth. We did hire outside counsel to set us up with, moving forward in the appropriate fashion. And ultimately, Moseri Builders, or Partridge Creek Development, was ultimately the one that had the last best offer. So there's an offer quite considerably above the asking offer, and looking at pushing that through for release.
Great.
And to be sold.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? Commissioner Sauger?
Hey, just a comment, Brian. I don't know if it's ever going to come to it, but I can remember the days when I was riding in a scout car a few years ago. We'd get to the intersection, and all these emergency lights are going on for whichever way back and forth. But meanwhile, you got all these radios booming back, and they can't hear these damn things. There's no question about it. I'd like to, with all this technology, someday I hope they can go at the intersection and hook it up where it would black out the radios that are playing, or that music that is playing, and all the emergency stuff can get through and then continue on with your thing. I don't know, I've often thought of that. I don't think I'll ever see it, but I wish it would come to pass.
I'm sure that might be a thought in the future. I know this technology isn't part of that, but I'm sure it could help. Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions or comments for Brian? Okay, so seeing none, we're going to take a vote. Again, the motion is A through I. Please vote. Item passes. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Go
Take care.
Lions. Okay, we'll go on to, let's see here, department recommendations. We're on J, then we'll get on to resolutions. So we'll go on to J, a budget amendment debt service fund balance for the Chappaton Pump Station, $2 million. Steve Schmiegel. Hi, Steve.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
Commissioner, rest of you commissioners as well. What you have before you is a request for a budget amendment in the debt service fund in the amount of $2 million. The nature of the request is to provide what I refer to as advanced funding for the $30 million project that Commissioner Candace Miller is proposing at the Chapelton Pump Station. She has been before you before with that project. You've in fact supported that project in a resolution earlier this year. Commissioner Miller has been able to secure $6 million in other advanced funding, $3 million from the state and $3 million from the Southeast Macomb Sanitary District. She approached the administration to match that $3 million. I believe I spelled it out fairly clearly in my memo. The general fund's not in a position to provide that. We are, however, in the fortunate position of having fund balance available in the debt service fund that can and must be used on repairs and maintenance of drain facilities. So we are asking that we essentially liquidate that fund almost to its entirety. There would be about $60,000 left in that fund, which would be used over the next couple of years to pay remaining debt service on outstanding issues that we have, and then we would probably ramp up that. It's a little millage. It's .005 mils. It's not very large millage, and we would need to continue that probably again or re-establish it, if you will, in a couple of years. Primarily if we're going to pay debt service on the remaining 21 million-ish, our portion of 21 million. Let me correct that.
Okay, interesting. Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Welcome, Candace. I know that we had talked about the ask was for $3 million, and this is obviously a project that, we feel needs to go forward. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, and I don't remember these that great, but I thought we left our general fund balance in some pretty darn good shape last year, well above the minimum, amount that we were looking at, number one. Number two, are we looking at doing something right now with this year's $2 million, and will the budget reflect anything more to go to this as far as you know? I mean, for 2020?
No, nothing further for 2020 or 21. You will see when you get the capital plan for the next 5 years at the end of this week that there are a significant number of projects primarily in 2021. So there's nothing more for this project in the capital plan, nothing in the 2019 or 20 general fund budget either. So this would liquidate this as an amendment, so when you get the budget for next year, you'll see this as an amended amount, and it will pretty much liquidate the fund balance in the debt service fund by the end of 2019. We would transfer that money in the fourth quarter.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. Could we consider, because the project's not going to be done overnight, could we consider like a couple $100,000 a year for 5 years or something, to just something to
From
consider?
the general fund, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean,
That's the
we're
only
doing
place
all these other things that, just something to consider.
Duly noted. Trust me.
Sorry, Steve. Sorry,
My ear's been chewed a few times. But anyway, the request before you is to at least provide $2 million of funding immediately, more or less.
Okay, I mean, it's a good start. Our Public Works Commissioner, she's probably, you could speak if you want, Candace, I'm sure you're happy with that. If we got you the full $3 million, you would be happy. Any comments on that before I continue the speakers?
Let the Public Works Commissioner speak.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to just make a couple of comments. This project, the Chapelton project, is something, as was mentioned, I've been before the board. You've seen a presentation on it. Most all of you have been down there. We have a two-phased approach. We're currently under design for the expansion of the canal portion of it. And then when we do the inside inline storage, between the two of them, we will essentially double the amount of capacity that we have there for detention retention, which will, for instance, when we had the heavy rain 2 weeks ago, if this thing would have been built, we would not have had to discharge combined sewer overflows into Lake St. Clair. But because it's not built yet, we did discharge, and we do discharge as we call it, we're spilling on a basis that we don't want to spill anymore, so we need to get this thing done. And we did get $3 million in the lame duck session from the state legislature. The SEMSD has put $3 million toward it, and we were hopeful that the county would match that. I'm going to tell you the truth, it seems appropriate to me that the county would match. We're getting, I mean, it's our county's project, so getting it from other sources, it would seem like we could match it as well. I'm very appreciative of the $2 million. Do I hear 3? So I know he's sitting over there, I'll hear about it later. Believe me, I know money is tight. This is a project that, there was a resolution passed by unanimous by this board, that it's something that is a marquee issue for our county, and this county is all about water quality, quality of life, economic prosperity, and this project meets all those goals of ours, I think. So I appreciate the $2 million. We'll take it, and if you can keep looking, that would be great.
Very good. Thank you very much, Candace.
you.
We'll go back to the speaker list here. Commissioner Kleinfeld, you're off the list, is that right? You already spoke, thank you. Commissioner Romano, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to see you, Schmiegel. I want to see that nice lady that was after you.
Sit down, Schmiegel. I'm going here.
Hi, Candace. Hi,
Just kidding,
Yeah,
just
I don't want
kidding.
to talk about the money. What I do want to talk about is, we've said this so many times. We have Lake St. Clair, the water quality that we have there. By this funding, I'm looking here, it's going to reduce 75% discharge once this is up and going. That discharge, that sewage going into Lake St. Clair, I don't know about anybody else, and I don't utilize the lake as much as I used to when I had boats out there, but every time people talk about Lake St. Clair, I say, oh, the beaches are closed, this is closed, the lake is... We're getting it cleaned up. We're getting the money to clean it up. I'm for this project 100%, and hopefully we can have you come back and say to you, Candace, we got that other $1 million you need, because somewhere, somehow, there's other projects I think to be put on hold. This is in my opinion, is a priority project that we all should be looking at. Thank you. That's
No,
all
I
have,
appreciate
Chair.
that, and I know some of your other commissioners that are not here today have echoed that as well, so I think there's a lot of interest in trying to get to the $3 million. Believe me, I understand your restrictions that you have. But, we're trying to get this project built. I'll tell you the truth, this project is going to be a role model. We are changing the conversation in the entire state of Michigan about CSOs. In fact, the biggest hiccup that we're running into is with EGLE. I know some people refer to them as EGLE. I call them EGLE. And they...
I don't know.
They really, that's the new DEQ. It was MDEQ, now they're something, EGLE. Anyway, they have to permit this, and everybody has been out to this site besides the commissioners. We've had both our United States senators there. We've had Andy Levin, of course, that's his district. We've had, the mayors, the supervisors. I mean, this thing is universally supported, but we are having some difficulty with EGLE up there in Lansing. I'm sort of looking at Phil since he's there all the time. We put in an application and asked them to do some loan forgiveness, which we thought we had a real good case at, but it doesn't look like we're going to be doing that. But we did put it in, it doesn't look like they're interested in giving us loan forgiveness. But we are looking for a state revolving fund, an SRF loan, for the balance of this project. However, all we really want them to do now is permit this. And I'm just going to tell you what they're saying. Why do you want to exceed state standards? This is the way we've always done it.
Really?
I'm not kidding. This is a conversation we have with them. This makes them very uncomfortable, et cetera. And I can tell you why, right? Because it's going to have us look at they're going to have to look at other communities that also have CSOs.
So they're saying that what you want to do is too much, too fast.
It's
You're
too
going
clean.
to,
Yeah.
and then
How clean do you
that
actually
makes-
need the water to be, after all?
And that will put pressure on them to deal with this at a statewide issue. That would be the standards of what you're dealing with at the Chapaton, is that right?
That's what
Some more or
that's
less.
what I think, because it doesn't make sense to me. But regardless of that,
Okay.
we're working through all of their, but they are our biggest roadblock right now, just everything that they want us to do. And then we keep working through it and working through it. And it's really sort of a counterintuitive type of a conversation. But at any rate, we are changing the nature of the conversation about CSOs by doing this. And you know, Macomb County can't look to other places that are discharging CSOs when we don't have clean hands here. We need to clean up our own backyard. And we're not there yet. But that's what this is about. And so it's something, I think that it's very appropriate for the county to continue to look to assist with something like this.
Okay, Commissioner Hall, I have you on the speaker list.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. As Candace is well aware, I've been a supporter of this project since SEMSD days when I chaired it. And, well, I should say, I'm shocked that I didn't hear Commissioner Romano say, don't we have any more grant money?
Hey, we are getting some grant money. I've done pretty good here so far. We got 6 million, might get another 2. And then one more, maybe. That would be a third of the project from other sources than the ratepayers.
I'm sorry, Candace.
No,
I
go
did
ahead.
see on a social media post where you had presented the full project to the St. Clair Shores City Council and how well received that. I don't know who's doing your PR on this stuff, but that was just a superb document that not only laid out the whole plan, but how it was being explained. So somebody gets kudos for that. And I know this isn't about the funding, but I am going to ask you a question because my mayor approached me on it. They talked about the boat ramp fees and accessibility to the boat ramps. Roseville's not being excluded from launching with the new redesign of Chappaqua, are they?
Well, that is something that is being discussed right now. And I'll tell you, because I want to be totally honest with you. So part of the redesign for the spit of land that goes out into the lake, as you know, there's currently a boat launch there. And and the district, the drainage district is East Point and St. Clair Shores, but Roseville has been able to access that boat launch for many years, I guess. Anyway, one of the things that we're on here now, and that's partially why I went to the St. Clair Shores City Council, is we would actually move the boat launch, because if we have to do something with the boat launch. If we move it from its current place to the very end, we could do that, which presents all kinds of issues. In a heavy storm, you know, everybody starts running for the boat launch, right? They're going to and there's not really a harbor of refuge there, so you'd have some issues there. Besides, you have to come all the way back to park your trailer, so you probably have to have a golf cart or something taking people back and forth, so it's not optimal. Then if you went to the north, you'd be having people launch right in front of the private condominiums that are there with their marina. That would all, and it doesn't have a harbor of refuge, not optimal. Plus, we really need the property to excavate to develop this wetland so that we have additional storage. Anyway, Kip Walby, the mayor of St. Clair Shores, made an excellent suggestion, we thought, because they're already trying to redo their boat launch behind Blossom Heath. And so we would, all money's fungible, I guess, and we were going to help them put in a third launch there. They've got 2 right now. They want to do a kayak and, different things. It'd be great. But it is a city facility. It's for the city of St. Clair Shores. So he talked to their city council, and they agreed with East Point being a participant there at the boat launch, because the drainage district is St. Clair Shores and East Point. But I know he's talked to your mayor already, and I talked to Kip just the other day about this, and I think they're working something out.
Yeah, I think they're meeting today.
Okay, so yeah, so that's really, probably more than I do where they are, but I know there's a will to make that happen. But, it is, the city is quite parochial about this, so even getting them to agree to the East Point thing was a step.
Right.
But I think because of the historic nature that Roseville has also been able to use that launch, hopefully everything will work out. I'm hopeful that happens, because I don't want that boat launch beyond Chappaqua anymore if I can put storage. I'm in the sewer business, right?
Sure.
That's what I'm trying to do. So, but we're working through it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller, for coming here and bringing this fine project to us again. It's long overdue. Appreciate it. I mean, this county doesn't have clean hands. We finally getting CSOs cleaned up in communities that we've known about since the middle 90s that needed to be taken care of, and they're finally now starting to be done. And I don't know how we can go to the state of Michigan and ask for $3 million for them and us not put up an equal amount. I mean, it's embarrassing. I mean, really, I mean, we're the one who created the problem. Why should someone from Escanaba be forced to pay more money than our own county's putting in to fix our problem? You know what I'm saying? And, I think that we had to approve $3 million for this project and match it. And lead by example, right? I mean, this is the number one project. We all talk about Lake St. Clair is so important to its economic engine, quality of life there, go on and on and on. We've got money in this budget to provide $3 million, another $1 million for this project. And we can look everyone in the face when we go up to Lansing and say, listen, we put our money where our mouth is. And when we're all out there campaigning, we all talk about how good Lake St. Clair is to us, how important the water quality is, blah, blah, blah. Well, we say, well, we stepped up.
We did a motion for him.
So I'll make a motion that we increase that amount to $3 million, right from $2 million, and be done with it.
I'll support it.
Well, hold on. I don't know if that can be a problem or not. I'm going to ask Crystal. So Commissioner Brown, and I believe it's supported by Romano, they want to, was that an amendment to this?
Yes.
So they want to amend this, or we're making a new motion. I need help here.
It would just, no motion is currently on the floor, and so any motion is in order, and so from my understanding, Commissioner Brown made a motion,
That might be better, yeah.
and Commissioner Romano supported.
I'm with you there, Don.
He was waving his hands.
Okay, so let's listen to Mr. Schmiegel.
So I
Go ahead.
believe that your decision today is yes or no on the 2 million, and the board cannot initiate budget amendments. They have
Our
to come from the
decision is to
exec's
do anything we
office.
want. If we want to
Pardon?
appropriate $3 million, we will do that. And you'll have to figure it out where it comes from.
Okay, so here, so so hold on. So listen, I'm chairing this meeting right now. My suggestion is let's go ahead and approve this right now, and we can find another $1 million within the next month. I think, and I'm speaking just for me, I think maybe there's support with this whole board that we're supporting this project, and maybe, knock on wood, we can find the other $1 million.
Well, I think I have the floor, don't I?
Well, go ahead, you do have the floor. I'm trying to make this as easy.
Logistically, I mean, you've got to line this up. You want to do a bond issue, so you got to have numbers in place to do that bond issue. You've got paper probably set up already for using these numbers of $2 million to go forward. If we amended this, how big of a wrench does that throw in your process? Does it slow you down? We don't want to slow you down because of our intended goodwill either, so I mean.
No, I think, right now, the way we're running the numbers is we're anticipating the $2 million. And we've applied for the SRF to go through the process. We've already been qualified for this project. I think out of 50 or something, we're number 30 in the state, talking about. So, it's not going to happen tomorrow. Right now, we're in the design phase, et cetera. And I certainly appreciate the comments of Mr. Schmiegel about the process here at the county. So, it's really up to the County Board of Commissioners. I think if you wanted to take a month or whatever to take a look and go through the budget, work with the county exec's office, see if you could come up with some additional cash, it's not going to impact us negatively to do that.
So we approve this $2 million today, that'd be fine, you can get going.
Yes,
And there'd be no harm in coming back with another $1 million.
that would be good.
Withdraw your motion.
All right, I will draw the motion then, and
Withdraw.
we'll move forward in the budget process to appropriate another $1 million, because that's what we all talk about, right? We all talk about how important Lake St. Clair is, so let's.
So what we need now, though, today is we need a motion for this recommendation, and it's duly noted.
Well, I'll make the motion.
You'll make the motion for the 2 million, support by Romano, okay. But it's duly noted that we're going to look, Commissioner Candace Miller, to help you out to get that other $1 million. We're going to do as best as we can and work with Schmiegel in the executive's office, okay? So we're all aware of
Very
that. Okay, speaker list, I have a couple more speakers. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Well, I'm glad that we're doing that, because the last thing I want to do is do something that is challenged one way or another, and we're heading right into budget, so the timing. So
Okay.
that, I'm just saying it's, for her sake, it's a cleaner way to do it. We're going right into budget, so the timing is perfect. The only thing I was going to say is at the St. Clair Shores meeting, which was a packed house, she's talking about this, and she says, I'm hoping to get $3 million from the county. I was there for another reason, and she says, I'm hoping to get $3 million from the county Veronica, and everybody just turned and looked at me, and I was like,
Hey, I was a deputy whip in Congress for 14 years, all right, making people do things they don't want to do.
Thank you, Commissioner Sauger.
Guilt works.
Marv, I got you.
You know, we all want to get that 3 million, and I would be the last person not to vote for it, but we have to rely on Mr. Schmiegel, because that's our budget guy. You got to work for him. We can all stay up here. We can take money out of this, money out of that. It's all up to him. So let him decide, and let him come back to us and says, we've got it or we don't have it. And that's the way I look at it.
Thank
Because
you,
I know
Mark.
she needs it. But if we don't have it, we don't have it. But if Steve can come up with it somehow,
Lake
great.
St. Clair needs it. That's who needs it.
Right.
Thank you, Marv. Next and last on the list, Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner. How much money is out on bonds right now in Chapmanton? What's our debt on there now?
Do you know offhand? I don't know offhand, although I can get you those numbers, but I don't know offhand.
I'd like to see them, because I think that we have quite a bit of debt already out there on this.
We do have debt. One of the things that we are doing now, is we've set up a life cycle account for our pumps. They're very expensive, those pumps, when they have to be replaced. So part of our budgetary process now is we have a life cycle account. I don't know immediately how much is in there, but so when one of those pumps goes out, we don't say, oh my gosh, we got to float another bond issue, right? We've got the money. So we're trying to do that as well.
Okay, and the operation of the Chapman, is this borne on East Point in St. Clair Shores for operational costs?
Yes.
And they cover 100% of it?
Well, some of it is actually, some comes from some of the other agencies, State of Michigan, MDOT, the county, that's where you're getting your debt service. That's where the $2 million is actually coming from, a lot of it. That's happened over many, many, many years. And so there's, trying to think who else. Seems like there's one I'm missing. Am I missing someone else?
The
No.
county, the state, East Point, and St. Clair Shores?
Yes.
And on this project that you're doing now, the bonding, how's that getting paid back?
The bonding is going to be paid by those ratepayers.
Okay.
That, I mean, and, you know.
I
So
get it.
we're trying to do everything we can to reduce the burden on the ratepayers.
And I understand that.
And so that's, you know, that's been my plea, right? That you've got a community, particularly some of the communities that are not in an economic position to try to fix this situation. And yet, everything that they're doing impacts all of us, right? It's going out into the lake.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it has for decades. So it's not unusual. It's not like it's just happening there. It's sort of around the country in many of the older areas. But every state doesn't do it. I think I might have mentioned to you, I also sit on the Great Lakes Commission. In fact, in 2 weeks, I'm going to our annual meeting. That's 5 commissioners from each of the 8 Great Lakes states and then the 2 Canadian provinces. And we talk about all these various issues. And our chairman this year is a guy from Wisconsin. And, Minnesota. And I was telling, I'm always talking about CSOs, and he finally looked at me and goes, you guys, what is this CSO stuff? We don't even have CSOs. We don't allow that. It's illegal under the Clean Water Act, and we sued Wisconsin, so they don't have them anymore either. So I passed that information along to Eggle, which they were not very desirous of hearing, but seriously? Come on, it's 2019. What are we doing here?
So the next question I have is that if my numbers, and don't hold me to them, I think it's like a $30 million project overall?
Yes.
And you have,
If we get the 3 million here and what we've got, we got
pledged.
almost a third,
so is it 8
Yeah.
pledged and you got 22?
At least 8 we
Okay.
got, yeah,
So
so
if I
far.
could ask our finance director to come up for a minute? Steve, in light of conversations in the past with our bonding capability and how it affects us long-term with other projects that are coming up, $22 million additional bonds on top of what we're looking to do, how does that affect our bond rating and how does it affect what we got going on? Because it's going to be our full faith and credit on this.
Yes.
Yeah, there will be our full faith and credit on the SRF loans from the state. At this point, the additional, we're only, I guess we'd have full faith and credit on the 21 or 22 million, whatever it happens to be.
Right.
From a Moody's perspective, it shouldn't affect it at all. Curiously enough, they don't consider the drain debt direct debt, so it doesn't factor into their calculations. From a Standard & Poor's perspective, they do consider that debt. At this point, I ran through the numbers on some of these refundings and such and so forth, and all the issues on today's agenda will not affect us in terms of moving the needle on the Standard & Poor's. It's hard to say what, I don't believe it would if we do this $22 million additional amount either. I think there's enough capacity.
Plus
with
the
it.
$300 million we're looking to do.
No, the 300 million is a different story.
Well,
And
it all
it's
relative
since it's
at the end of
all,
the day.
since the jail debt and this is all basically paid by ratepayers, it gets a little bit different treatment from the rating agencies. It's not like we're using general fund tax money to pay the debt service back.
And I understand that, again, I'm just trying to look at a bigger picture, long-term. I know
Absolutely.
this all needs to get done, but I don't want to all of a sudden shoot ourselves in the foot, too, and it changes our bonds rating, and then all of a sudden we're going to be paying more money for everything else because of this. So I want to be on the record saying that I'm
Again,
asking.
and, you know, our debt profile is one of 7, categories that Standard & Poor's rates us on, and one of 10 or 12 that Moody's rates us on, so.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Smith.
Thank you. First, Steve, I want to just apologize. It kind of, and I don't think it actually resonates to most of us because we know you and we like you and we call you Smeagol all the time. And it's kind of, I mean, in a way, it seems like it's disrespectful, but everybody doesn't say that because it is.
No,
No
and I
one
would-
calls, no
No,
one
and I
calls
would- I
anybody
would-
else
What
by
is
their
your
last
first
name
name?
the same way. I just want to point out that the Director of Finance
I think
is-
I'm the master bean counter, is what you, I think that's what you referred to me as a year or two ago.
But you're one of the few that everybody feels, I guess, they can joke around with and say
No,
that. just wanna
I don't
point
take
out
any
that it's
offense.
certainly
I will
not,
echo a little bit of what Commissioner Kleinfeld said, though, was I would ask you to respectfully reserve your judgment on this until you see the budget.
Right, and that's
I mean,
my,
we're rolling right
that's
into
my
the
next
budget
point,
and-
is that the budget's going to be sent to us this week.
Right.
And while a lot of us and our attorneys feel completely different than the eighth floor about our ability to amend the budget after,
Right.
on an open item like this, I think that the best time is for us to look at it and possibly, I don't think, and I don't think anybody thinks that we can say yes or no only to the budget, so there's times that we might be able to look at something and, Michigan State, Leon's not here, maybe, and see what we can maybe all come up with together to help this out, because this is obviously
Yeah.
important to everybody.
But again, the budget's coming out in a couple
Yep,
of days.
so we'll see that, and
It'll be a little more, it'll be clearer, I think.
Tell you, Commissioner Miller, that we will certainly look into that side of
I
things.
appreciate that,
Thank you.
appreciate it, and I really appreciate Steve Smeagol. I knew what your first name was.
It's just funny that he's the only one that everybody just, you have such a fun last name to say, I think, Steve. So, anyway, thank you.
Okay, so no other speakers. We do have a motion, please vote. And motion passes. Thanks again for coming here, Candace. We look forward to working with you in our team here in the OCE's office and Mr. Schmiegel's office to work with you to try and get the extra funds you need there. Okay, we'll go on to item 7, which is resolutions. And my understanding from state law, we have to vote on these on themselves. I believe we can't line them in with others. So we'll start with Resolution 7A. Resolution R19-3770, pledge limited tax full faith and credit for the Oakland-Macomb Intercept Drainage District, refunding bonds, Series 2019. Brian, you want to come up? All these items fall with you, Mr. Baker, so podium is yours.
All right. Thank you, Chairman and Board and Commissioners. We are here today to present to you and consider a number of drainage district refinancing opportunities. We can save $4.4 million in lower interest payments for the 14 Macomb communities. So if you look at the $2 million that we just got, minus the 4.4 that we're saving, we're still giving you $2.2 million. So with these savings, this will bring the total that we've saved in the last 2.5 years from drain bond refinancings now to over $11 million. Since Candace has been here. So this is an OMID bond, the first item. OMID is a Chapter 21 drainage district, and that's funded by the 11 Macomb and 12 Oakland communities. This was a 2010 OMID bond that we can refinance or refund at a lower interest rate. In 2010, you pledged your full faith and credit on these bonds, and actually last March, we came before you to refinance these bonds, and you pledged your full faith and credit, and subsequently the interest rates rose. So we did not do it, but we're coming back today for asking for the same pledge, and we estimate we can save now $300,000 with the lower interest rates. And the county historically has pledged its full faith and credit. And again, in the unlikely event that a community did not pay its assessment, this resolution authorizes the county to take all actions necessary in order to collect those unpaid funds from the county in order to protect the community. So we have the OMID's financial advisor and bond counsel here as well tonight if there's any further questions.
Okay, very quickly, though, I just told through Crystal that we can take these resolutions, which would be A through E in its entirety. Can I get a motion for that? We can still have Q&A moved by Kraft, supported by Hoff, for A through E. Okay, so I guess we can kind of talk about this, all of these, Brian, if that's
Okay.
okay. So if there's, I have Carabelli on the list. Do you want to talk right now, Jim?
Very quick.
Go ahead.
Brian, when you're saying that it's a $300,000 savings, what is the actual cost of us doing this? So that's after the fact.
No, that is taken into account after the 300. So the 300,000 is net after the bond issuance costs.
What is the actual cost?
I can get you on this one. We do have quotes from the OMID. Yeah. You guys have it? 55,000 is the total bond issuance cost on
So
this
it's
one.
costing us $55,000 to
Yep.
save $300,000?
That's right.
Or is it $355,000 we're saving?
355 is what you would totally save minus the 55 in which
Okay, just
it
wanted to have an
cost.
understanding.
So the net is 300.
So that's item A, is 300,000 savings.
Correct.
Very good.
Thank you.
Correct.
Mr.
Seeing no other questions on A, I guess you can go on to the next one, B.
Okay, B is a little bit different. B is a new bond issue. This one has a very unique story and something that, it's not a refi, but we are asking for the county's full faith and credit pledge. And this is something we're extremely proud of. First, a little bit about this project. Sterling Heights and Waterford Township petitioned the OMID to maintain and finance needed improvements to the northeast pump station. This is the pump station on 8 Mile and Groesbeck, around that area. And then the downstream North Interceptor East Arm. That's the interceptor that takes the OMID waste down to the sewage treatment plant. GLWA formerly had these responsibilities and billed OMID, the 23 communities, for the costs, as these assets only benefit OMID customers. OMID recently finalized an agreement with the GLWA for OMID to assume these responsibilities. Now, what that does is it now allows OMID to finance the improvements at a lower interest rate. OMID has a better interest rate than GLWA does, or the city of Detroit. And it allows OMID to perform its own maintenance and repairs on these assets. So it ensures faster repairs and allows GLWA staff to concentrate on other system repairs. Now, even better, the GLWA is now charging OMID $8.4 million less per year as a result of that agreement. So that savings allows OMID not only to maintain the facilities and repair them, but also make the improvements that are needed. So this first item today is a $12 million payment that we owe to GLWA as part of that. It's going to be a 6-year short-term financing, and this offsets the debt that we would have owed GLWA. So in total, we have enough funding from the GLWA savings to not only pay the debt service on the $12 million, but also the debt service on upcoming $80 million worth of work on the Northeast Pump Station and the North Interceptor East Arm. So without this deal, we would have been, the 23 communities would have been paying much more. But because of the GLWA savings, that completely is going to offset the principal and interest costs on these facilities. Now, right now, we're only requesting the $12 million full faith and credit. We're going to come back to you when we're ready to issue bonds on the improvements, the $80 million worth of improvements. That will be over the next year or two. So, but in summary, these are necessary repairs. They only impact OMID, and we've crafted a way from GLWA savings to OMID that will fully pay for these things. And I got to tell you, this is probably the largest or the biggest benefit that Macomb County has had as a result of the GLWA deal.
I just want to comment as well, and Brian has done an excellent job of outlining this. This is an incredible deal. This is an incredible deal. It was about 2 years in negotiation from Oakland County and Macomb County dealing with this, to have this kind of savings, enough savings to offset an over $80 million improvement at the Northeast Pump Station that otherwise would have been passed along and probably wouldn't have been done as well. And here's the thing, not financially, but this is what the Northeast Pump Station does. I actually was just down there this morning looking around. This is a large facility. It's 50 years old, built in 1969. It's for the Macomb Interceptor Drainage District, which is 550,000 people approximately. Comes in at a junction with the OMID, a portion of Oakland County, about another 250,000 people, so about 800,000 people. All their sanitary sewage junctions in at the ITC corridor, the big transmission grid for the transmission lines, used to be called the Detroit Edison corridor. That's the ITC corridor. That's approximately where this thing junctions. All of this sewage goes there. Then it goes down to the Northeast Pump Station, which is located sort of by Connor and State Fair, where the FCA plant is down there, just on the other side of 8 Mile Road. Even though it's in Wayne County, this pump station, the only service it has is for the 800,000 people in Macomb and Oakland County. So it's unbelievably important to us, right, to make sure that we get ahead of the maintenance. 50 years old, you can imagine, right? All kinds of things are happening. The electrical, all the copper wires are black. We've had a lot of problems down there. We had a fire down there, huge electrical arc happened. A guy got seriously injured about 2 months ago. I mean, we have to do this work down there. So we're looking at $80 million to do that. And we're also doing what we call a biofilter trickler system, which is going to help us with odors that emanate now all through that whole neighborhood there. And also it will help us with what they call H2S, which is a hydrogen sulfate mix that happens with sewage, and it's very acidic, and that's what degrades the pipes, right, the concrete pipes. So long-term, having this done could save us hundreds of millions of dollars of maintenance further down. So it's very important that we do this. But that being said, I'll tell you, working with Oakland and Macomb County and Brian and our bond counsel, who happens to be here, Joe Kalani and John Axe, others have been involved in this negotiation. This has been there's a lot of things behind the scenes that went into negotiating this deal. And I know Commissioner Smith and Kleinfeld are sort of familiar with this because we had to have this augmented drainage district board, and then Oakland County did theirs as well. They're also going to be pledging their full faith and credit. But I thought it was important that you know what the Northeast Pump Station actually does. It's very, very critical. And so we feel real good that we are going to get it fixed. I just hope nothing happens there before we get at it, really, tell you the truth. It's in bad shape.
Thank you. Any questions on that item, Commissioners? Commissioner Carabelli?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You touched on it in the very end. Did you say Oakland County will be giving, on that $88 million portion, some of their full faith and credit?
They did today. This morning they did.
All of it?
On the 12. Everyone's coming back for the 80, but on the 12, which is what we're asking you, they approved it today.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next question I have, and bear with me, municipalities, when they changed the rates back in the day from Detroit Water and Sewer, before they changed the name and everything happened, there was always an argument in the communities of how much do you put on top of that on the sewer, how much do you put on top of that on the water for you to do your maintenance in those communities. So I'm asking, what are we putting on top of the actual rate that's being paid to build up that capital fund project for the repairs. Are we doing that? Is it legal, and are we doing the right amount?
We certainly put on our administrative costs. I mean, we have employees doing this. We put on any projects that the MID is responsible for, that debt service or any of those O&M.
Let me back
But
up.
are we putting funds aside? We do have funds aside because we do know we have projects upcoming in the MID.
Meaning the question is, and I can ask the former mayor, I don't know what you guys did in East Point as far as your percentage you would put on top,
East Point was that way.
or East, I apologize, Roseville, what did you put on top of your sewer and water?
Put the administrative fees on top of the sewer and water and passed it on to the residents.
And there was no buildup of funds to take care of the system?
There was a minor buildup of funds because the residents would be objectionable to getting as they are now.
No, and I guess I'm asking that, because we know these things are gonna break, and we know everything needs to be replaced, and, you know,
Well,
depending.
every community does their own thing, right? Every community does their own capital improvements program. For instance, I'll just give you an example. I was just talking to Harrison Township the other day, because when we passed on the sewer costs to all of our middies, I call them, right, all the mid-communities, for instance, we saw that the highest increase was Harrison Township by quite a large percentage, about 3 or 4 percentages higher than most all these other communities. Now, I live in Harrison Township. I'm familiar with their system out there. I called Verkest and said, listen, half that sewer is underwater, right? It's right next to Metro Beach, and you got old sewers there. What are you doing you got to tighten the system up. Why are we all paying to treat Lake St. Clair? You got to put some money on top of your bill to have a capital improvements program. Anyway, we worked out, I actually am helping them a bit with figuring out how much it would cost them to fix that system, and then float a bond issue and pay it. I mean, in the long run, they're going to be ahead. So, but I'm just using it as an example. Every community is different, right? It's up to the community to decide, once we pass on the bill, if they want to put anything on top.
And you're right, and that's for their infrastructure, but this larger infrastructure, which is government,
And we are doing that. We are starting to put a reserve together because.
and that's what, I guess, was where I'm leading to.
With the MID, no surprise perhaps, you know, after we had the sewer collapse, we actually hired a company to inspect the other 17 miles of this interceptor. No surprise, there is huge amounts of work that needs to be done. Some is sort of critical, hopefully not a sinkhole criticality, but very critical. Some not so much. So we're prioritizing where we are. We're in the process. If you drive down 15 Mile right now, you'll see a Dodge truck that's down there in Sterling Heights, and we're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars of grout into that pipe right now, because we have to grout it first to stop what they call the gushers and the weepers, the leakers, before we will probably bid out to line that entire pipe, which is going to be very expensive. That's another, when I talked about the SRF for Chapaton, we have 2 projects in the MID that we've applied for SRF. We were like 1 and 2, I think, on the list, so we're doing good with those. We're doing better with them than Chapaton, I think, because Eggle doesn't really want us to do Chapaton, but we're going to make it happen. So.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions with that, we got still 3 more items. Brian, item number C.
Yeah, this is the Lake St. Clair Clean Water Initiative. This is the second refi opportunity. This is a Chapter 20 drainage district. It's funded by the 3 communities of St. Clair Shores, East Point, and Roseville. This is a 2010 bond that the county previously pledged its full faith, so it's not an additional pledge, but a renewed pledge. And we think with the lower interest rates, we'll save $600,000 for these 3 communities.
Okay, thank you.
Number
question?
4, number 4, NGI. NGI is our third, it's North Gratiot Interceptor, Chapter 4 Drainage District, a 2006 bond that funded Phase 5 of the North Gratiot Interceptor. This bond can be refinanced, and that's going to save $290,000 for Lenox and New Haven. The final is the MID. That is actually our largest savings. The MID, of course, is the Chapter 20 drain, the 11 communities in the MID. Chesterfield, Clinton, Harrison, Lenox, Macomb, Shelby, Washington, cities of Fraser, Sterling Heights, and Utica, and the village of New Haven. This is a 2011 bond we can refinance. We estimate $3.2 million of savings for these 11 communities. So all All told, $4.4 million that we're asking for your approval today.
Okay. We do have a motion for items A through E. Please vote. And these will go on through the full board meeting for tomorrow, just to let you guys know. Item passes. Thank you all very much for coming here today.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to item, do we need to take a break for a minute? No. We'll go on to item F. It's a resolution that I've brought forward to support House Bill 4229. I can't remember the last time I brought up a motion or resolution like this. Basically, Commissioner, he was a commissioner, Sarby, he's now state representative. Representative Sarby brought this up a couple months ago. This resolution is to reinstate the minimum wage increase that was originally proposed by the ballot initiative in Michigan, of which close to 400,000 people signed. Okay, there are just a couple talking points. There's nearly 90,000 people in Macomb County who make $12 an hour or less. It's 26% of the workforce. We hear a lot in our local media, in our newspapers, the Macomb Daily, from chamber luncheons to economic forecasts about how good the economy is doing, which it is. It's robust. The auto industry, the unemployment is low. But there are other people who don't get talked about too much. And those are people at the bottom, the minimum wage earners. And this is just something that I'm very passionate about. And so what you're looking at right there is how much is the difference between, basically right now, people in Michigan are making $9.45 per hour, minimum wage right now. Had they taken up this one fair wage ballot proposal, which they did, but the lame duck took it away, they would have made $10 an hour. So right there is basically about $90 in food per month that minimum wage earners are losing out. So I wanted that, and we're donating that to the Macomb County Food Bank. So I don't want to be political on anything, commissioners, or partisan in any way. Things do come up. I care and I think about those people in the county who are less fortunate than us, and always looking out for people like that. So with that, I'll open it up for questions or comments, please. Item number, Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the effort, and your intent is genuine, but at our level, I don't see the impact we're going to make. And with me not knowing and understanding enough about this, of hearing one side of explaining something, just like we did with the, what was it called? The cows. Okay. It's just then when we brought in other people, we all got a different look to have an understanding on it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not disagreeing, it probably needs to be changed, but to what amount? Maybe it should be more than that. I don't know the answers to this. So for me to make a decision to vote for something, not really knowing enough about it and the impact it may have, I kind of struggle with that. But I do understand what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense. But at this time, I'm not prepared to vote forward or against it, just because I don't know enough personally about it as you do.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next on the list, Chairman Smith.
Thanks, Rob. Can you explain a little more about what happened the first time through this? I know that this was taken up at one point, and
Sure.
and then it was discarded in lame duck. And then also what the time frames are. I know Representative Sowerby has put this forward. As far as the timing of our resolution versus anything up there to maybe accommodate Commissioner Carabelli and his, having, at least learning a little more about this, what's the time frame constraint?
Sure. I mean, just to go back, though, there were about 370, I've been told more than 400,000, but they turned in 370,000 signatures. I'm one of those numbers that signed a petition for one fair wage to increase the minimum wage in the state of Michigan to $12 an hour by the year 2022. So these petitioners handed it into the state legislature in September last year. The state legislature, because it is a political issue, felt that, well, if they put this on the ballot, it's going to help with turnout, and that's going to affect certain partisan issues in the November. So they took it up, said, we're going to pass this. They dealt with it, the election happened, and then in lame duck in December, they reneged on this, and basically the minimum wage, instead of going up to $12 by 2022, it would go up to $12 by 2030. So they stretched that out longer. As far, in these numbers that we've given you in this resolution here are from Beer Bussy from Michigan Works. That's where those numbers come from. As far as time frame, I've talked to, I was going to say Commissioner Sarby again, Representative Sarby, I've talked with him. There's nothing that the legislature is bringing up, you know, because they don't have control. One party or the other doesn't have control. That's definitely a reason. I know that, I believe that the courts are looking into this also. The courts, the Supreme Court can rule in favor of what the legislature did, can rule against what the legislature did, or do nothing. So that's all I know. Phil, you're up there in Lansing. If you can add anything, you probably know a little bit more on me on this, I'm not sure. But if I missed anything, please let me know.
All I'm going to say is if you look at every co-sponsor, it's every Democrat in the House, which is not a majority. You don't see a single Republican on there, so that's all I'm going to add.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great, okay.
And
Does
do
that
you-
answer your?
It kind of does. I mean, so just answer me this. Is there time, I mean, in your eyes, to bring back a few, because honestly, I think some stats are missing in here that, you know, what inflation has done over the years and how, as compared to how much minimum wage has gone up, because I think it's really probably ridiculous how much the cost of goods have gone up, but the wage has been static. And I know that that's the case. I just don't know the numbers to put to it, which would actually help, you know, I think in this kind of situation. But my big question is there time, because we've done this for a lot of things, to kind of have the other side of the story, or is there an urgency that today and tomorrow it's done? That was my
I'm not one to
question.
tell you either way on that. Obviously, I would say now, it's more urgent now. But it's obviously Lansing and the state's going to deal with this, but we take issues all the time to support certain resolutions that would benefit the county government or the people of Macomb County, and that's why I'm bringing this up.
I get it.
You know, 89,000 people, that's a lot of people.
And I get why you're bringing it up. Go ahead, Chris.
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
think they're expected to act on it.
Yeah.
That's my question. Are
Right,
they expected to
yeah.
act on it
No,
in the
like
next,
this week or whatever.
this week, right? I mean, that's my big thing, so that's, I mean, I'm actually strangely enough in favor of this, which normally I'm not, of these kind of things, but I mean, this just seems such a minimal increase to, compared to what, you know, I mean, geez, I remember making close to this when I was, you know, almost a kid at minimum wage, which is kind of ridiculous. Not when you were minimum wage. Yeah, they gave wooden nickels out for minimum wage back then.
Okay, Commissioner
thanks.
Romano, you're next. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And I do agree, probably the minimum wage, you know, when I think about people working at the factory starting at $15 an hour, I think Ford, some of them are part-time people at $15 an hour, no benefits. So my point is, I somewhat agree with Commissioner Carabelli. Without looking at the other side or hearing the other side, I would be remiss to say, listen, I support or don't support this. It seems like a good idea. It seems like something that you could speak for the underprivileged, I guess I'll use that word, money-wise. But for me to go ahead and cast a vote right now without knowing the other side of the story, I'd have a little difficulty with that. Thank you, Commissioner.
Very good. Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Thank you, Chair. If we vote on it now, it doesn't go to full board, correct? The resolutions, or do we do the resolutions in full board?
Yeah,
So this is just a motion to move it to full board,
correct.
where there would be a lot more commissioners. Because we're pretty slim pickings right now. Thank you.
Okay.
Not you, you're not slim pickings.
Next on the first round, Commissioner Hall.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. And following Commissioner Romano, it is a good idea. The reality is, as our good friend over here indicated, when the lame duck vote took place, the control belonging to the House, the Senate, was the Republican control. We're not being political here. And it got removed. That situation hasn't changed. I'm sure we're all still aware they control the House and the Senate. By virtue of a bill with all Democratic sponsors on it and no Republican, I understand what our Rep. Sowerby wants to do, and I support the initiative, but I don't think voting on it today is going to get us anywhere at all. So if a motion is acceptable, I'd move that we table this to a future date. Try to get Representative Sowerby here and let him speak to it.
Okay, thank you.
So that's a motion.
Okay, so you have a motion to table.
Table to a future date, if I can do that.
Okay.
Can you do that?
What's that? I didn't hear that, sorry, hold on.
Can I make that motion?
Yes, go ahead.
A motion to table to a future date?
That's
You
fine.
can postpone to a specific date or table it, and then you'd have to bring it off the table. So do you want to postpone it to a specific date?
Okay, motion to table.
Table so you can bring it off whenever.
Right.
That's fine.
Right.
Okay, is there a support for that?
And I
Supported by
thank you,
Duge.
Chairman, for bringing this
Okay.
up.
Okay, any other questions? Commissioner Carabelli?
There's no discussion after a motion to
No.
table.
Okay, so we got to vote on it.
You're
and
out, Jim.
Please vote.
Got you off the hook. You voted no. To table
Voted
it?
no.
Are you kidding me?
Commissioner Smith?
You voted no to table? Yeah. I should have voted no to table.
Okay, so motion to table passes with Myjack and Kraft voting no. Okay, we'll go on to item number 8, which is correspondence. I guess we can get a receive and file motion A through M. Moved by Romano, supported by Kraft. Please vote on the correspondences. Item passes. Number 9, any new business, commissioners? Okay, there's a few here. Carabelli, go ahead.
Hey, just to recap for a minute, when you were talking, I just grabbed Google and I pulled it up, and it said the average U.S. Throughout the United States is $7.25 an hour. I went and looked at California, 12, Canada's 11.06. In 2019, minimum wage in 21 states in Washington, D.C. will increase. The size increase will range from 5 cents in Alaska to $1.40 in New Jersey. The state-wide minimum wage ranges from $12 in California, Massachusetts, and Washington, and $14 in Washington, D.C., $5.15 in Georgia and Wyoming. My point is that you brought up a great point about the cost of living, and things go, or whoever brought it up. I don't know what the right number is. I honestly, and for me to support something, I need somebody to give me, here's true cost of living. Here are all the factors, that this is the minimum that somebody needs to get paid. Not Republican, Democrat, just what is the true numbers without fudging, one way or the other. That's all I want to point out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me look under new business here. Anybody under, saw a couple hands, Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Okay, all of that said, it does not negate the fact that the citizens signed petitions to put it on the ballot, and that what the legislature did was absolutely defy the intent of the Constitution to give the residents the right to vote on this. So they adopted it. That is exactly the way that it was written, so that it wouldn't go on the ballot, and then as soon as the election was over, they turned around and rescinded what they adopted, which was that absolutely the intent was to not follow the Constitution. All these constitutional, it's about the Constitution, it sure wasn't this time. That's number one. Number two, I am protesting that I need a parka in here because it's cold, and I've had 3 other people in here tell me that it's cold, and I've been cold for the last 2 weeks, so I'm putting everybody on notice. It's cold in here, we need to stop being this cold.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And then the last thing I have is, my nephew Will just finished OCS and became a lieutenant, and my nephew Josh finished OCS about 2 months before Will and became a lieutenant. And this is the third generation that will be career-long, 30-year members in the military, and I am just over the moon proud of my family. Thank you.
Very good. So are we. Any other new business, Chair Smith?
Thank you. So at the legislative town hall the other day, there was a few things brought up. One of them was eerily reminds me of what might happen with the, Senator Lucido wants to look at putting an amendment on the ballot to amend Act 51, which sounds like, maybe the only chance for Act 51 to ever get changed. However, the problem could be, just as you said with the minimum wage thing, on how the legislators are able to do what they did. So just keep that in mind. Number two, they brought up, and Commissioner Kraft's boss signed this bill, introduced this about about taking the vote for commissioners to have 4-year terms. And I think that is something that probably one of the first things as a board that I would imagine that we would really be pushing to lobby for up in Lansing. And I guess my question is anybody against 4-year terms here? I mean, we don't, you can, go ahead. I guess we can do a question and answer for a second.
20 years ago, Bobby.
Well, I mean, the point is that it's actually made it to a point where and a Republican has brought it up in the state, so I mean, it does seem to me that it might have a chance.
If I can bring up a point of order as far as that goes, it's fine and dandy that everybody wants to do it and you can change state law to do it. We can't do it in Macomb County because the charter says 2 years.
So anyway.
So we would have to have a vote to redo the charter.
So anyway, there's already discussion on that, and that's not, that's more of a finer legal point if it actually happens.
My understanding is charter takes.
Anyway, so my question is, go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
I just wanted to point out in support of what you're saying, today we received an email with a website on there. If you're in favor of 4-year terms for commissioners, contact your senator and representative, for which I have already done that.
Okay, so my question though is we pay lobbyists, and supposedly there are lobbyists, and I don't think we've ever asked for their support on anything out of here, and my plan is to ask them for their support in lobbying for this to pass. So I just want to make sure that I'm not lobbying on two of our behalfs. I'm asking them to lobby on two of our behalfs, and that, majority, and I've heard it from everybody for the most part, that would be great if it ever happens. So I want to point out that we're going to be asking that of GCSI.
And I would point out, Chairman, when you ask, we're not asking for their support, we're asking them to get
To lobby for us, right, yes.
Right. Just so they understand. There's a difference.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure.
There's
They're lobbying on our behalf.
Our behalf.
There we go. So that was it. I just wanted to point out, and I know you weren't here that day. It was a great turnout and a great conversation, I think, and I think there's more to come based from that.
I did hear an awful lot about Senator Lucido's comments. So.
Any other new business? Seeing no new business, we'll go into public participation. No one from the public. Moved by Romano, supported by Duge to adjourn. Please vote. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.